Although the majority of police officers swore to perform their duties with honesty and respect, there have been cases where some have violated their authority, broke the public's trust, and committed the most heinous crimes you can imagine. From cruel homicides to predatory sexual assaults on minors, these 5 dirty cops have violated the boundaries of law enforcement and faced the worst consequences of their actions. Join us as we delve into their cases, examine the evidence against them, and analyze the severity of the sentences they got for their crimes. Also, did you know it's considered a felony not to subscribe and like this video? But hey, I'm not a lawmaker, so don't blame me. Do you think a life sentence is a long time? How about 36 life sentences? That's what the first crooked cop on our list got for his crimes. David Carrick served briefly in the British Army before joining the Metropolitan Police as a police officer in 2001. Despite becoming part of the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Team in 2009, allegations of domestic abuse against him were pouring in since 2002. Even though he received multiple complaints about his behavior, Carrick was recertified to remain an armed police officer in 2017. He was known amongst colleagues as Bastard Dave due to his cruel tendencies. Between 2003 and 2020, Carrick met several women on dating apps like Badoo and Tinder who later became victims of his abuse and sexual assaults. He used his job as an armed police officer to gain their trust and control them through physical and emotional abuse. He degraded his victims physically and sexually assaulted them and imprisoned them in small spaces. In October 2021, another woman came forward to report that Carrick had sexually assaulted her a year earlier. She decided to come forward in response to the kidnapping, sexual assault, and death of Sarah Everard by another Metropolitan Police officer. Carrick was subsequently arrested and suspended from police work. Initially, he pleaded not guilty to all charges against him. However, in December of 2022, at the Old Bailey Criminal Court in central London, Carrick pleaded guilty to 49 charges, including 24 charges of sexual assault involving 12 female victims. On the 16th of January 2023, at Southwark Crown Court, he pleaded guilty to 4 more charges. After Carrick was convicted, the Metropolitan Police reviewed previous reports of domestic abuse or sexual offences involving Met Office employees. They investigated approximately 1,000 out of 45,000 workers. Carrick's sentencing began on the 6th of February 2023 at Southwark Crown Court, where he received 36 life sentences with a minimum term of 30 years plus 239 days on the 7th of February 2023, meaning he must serve that long in prison before becoming eligible for parole. He will become eligible for parole on the 2nd of May 2052. I don't know about you, but the last 239 days would bother the living hell out of me. Apparently, our next dirty cop on the list missed school on a day when they taught the US police slogan, "To protect and to serve." Dennis Perkins, a former police officer in Louisiana, was convicted of sexual crimes against children in 2017. The abuse was reported to law enforcement after a victim told a school counselor about it. Perkins was charged with 60 counts of child sexual abuse and arrested in August 2017. During the trial, the victims testified about the abuse they suffered at the hands of Perkins, and the prosecution presented evidence such as text messages and photographs that supported the victims' claims. Our poor Perkins claimed that the allegations were part of a conspiracy against him and that the victims had been brainwashed to lie. However, the judge sentenced him to 100 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Perkins' case drew national attention due to his background as a police officer who had worked for several law enforcement agencies. And that's not all. After Perkins was convicted, his wife Cynthia was also arrested for obstructing justice. She was accused of bribing a victim to take back their statement and trying to intimidate the witness. Cynthia pleaded guilty and got sentenced to 41 years in prison as part of a plea deal. So let me get this straight. He was a child molesting cop, and after he was convicted, his own wife, instead of running away from him as far as possible, she went out and tried to intimidate the witness so her hubby could run free and keep cheating on her with, minors? What a crazy world we live in indeed. And we have another child lover on our list. Braulio Gonzalez, a former lieutenant with the Miami Police Department, was accused of sexually molesting 2 young girls, one of whom was a family member, at gunpoint. I guess the stories about a creepy uncle are true, after all. He faced 7 counts of lewd and lascivious molestation of a child and 1 count of kidnapping. The abuse allegedly occurred for 2 years between 2011 and 2013 and stopped when the victims turned 10. What? They got too old for you, Braulio? He was charged with kidnapping because of what he allegedly did to one of the minors. During their first meeting, he woke her up, aimed a gun at her head, and said he would harm her siblings if she didn't obey him. Gonzalez would then take her to his room and assault her for 2 years. In 2018, one of the victims told her psychologist about the abuse, leading to Gonzalez's arrest. He was put under house arrest while awaiting trial, and despite his charges, the department continued to pay him his salary.
Oh, come on, really?
9 months later, another victim came forward and Gonzalez was sent to jail before the trial. Of course, he said he didn't do any of it, even as the jury convicted him on all counts. The judge sentenced Gonzalez to life in prison, and he's currently appealing the verdict. According to police records, Gonzalez also allegedly assaulted other women before. 3 of his ex-girlfriends claimed to have suffered severe injuries after Gonzalez reportedly attacked them. One made it out with a broken nose and another with a broken arm. 2 of the women claimed he pointed a firearm at them as well. Despite his superiors' knowledge of these incidents, Gonzalez did not lose his job with the Miami police force. Now, being an ex-cop and sentenced for what he did to those children, I wonder how much time of his life sentence he will actually serve. Let's see if the fellow prison inmates will receive him with open arms. Now let's take a look at our next fella on our list. Kenneth Blue's crimes as a former police officer were shocking to both the community and the law enforcement. One particular heinous crime was the homicide of Jennifer Webb, a 32-year-old pregnant woman. According to reports, Blue was the father of Webb's unborn child, but a little caveat was that he was married and wanted to keep their affair hidden. So he convinced Webb to meet him in a scheduled area to discuss child support, but instead he allegedly shot her and left her to die. Webb's body was found by a passing motorist who called 911. Investigators find out that Blue might be the suspect by connecting clues such as a bullet shell and a tire mark to the place where the crime happened. They also got help from a prisoner who'd been in the same cell as Blue. The prisoner said Blue had confessed to him about the murder. At the trial, the prosecution gave lots of proof that showed Blue did it. They even had DNA evidence that showed he was the dad of the baby Jennifer was carrying. The defense tried to say that Blue was not mentally okay when he did it, but the jury refused it. They found him guilty of first-degree murder. Blue was given a life sentence in prison without the chance of ever getting out, hoping that it would bring some comfort to Jennifer Webb's family. The case of Kenneth Blue led to a review of police procedures and protocols and increased awareness about domestic violence and the dangers of police officers who abused their power. Blue was entrusted to protect and serve the community as a police officer, but instead he used his position to commit a heinous crime and cover up an affair. The consequences of his actions were devastating, not just for Jennifer Webb, but for her family, the community, and the reputation of law enforcement as a whole. While the sentencing of Blue brought some closure to those affected by his crime, it also made people ask questions about how to keep law enforcement accountable. After what happened, people have asked for better training and help for police officers, and more checks on those who might have mental problems or seem unstable. Now, the last crooked cop on our list was really cunning. David Holtzclaw was a former police officer in Oklahoma City who was convicted of sexually assaulting multiple women while on duty between December 2013 and June 2014. He intentionally patrolled a low-income neighborhood and preyed on vulnerable women with criminal histories or outstanding warrants. He used his position of authority to force them into sexual acts, or else he would arrest them. Holtzclaw's crimes were exposed when a woman reported a sexual assault during a traffic stop. This led to an investigation that revealed a pattern of abuse that spanned for several months. In total, 13 women came forward with similar allegations against Holtzclaw. During his trial, Holtzclaw denied the allegations, claiming that the women fabricated them as part of a conspiracy against him. However, he was found guilty on 18 counts and sentenced to, and get this, a whopping 263 years in prison.
Oh yeah, could be the padding.
Imagine his victims, who were already struggling with poverty, addiction, or mental health issues, were now left traumatized and ashamed with almost no resources for support or justice. The story of Daniel Holtzclaw shows how power and the way things are set up can contribute to police brutality and sexual violence. He cunningly chose predominantly women of color who were vulnerable to abuse and less likely to receive support or justice due to their socio-economic status. This case raises ethical questions about the role of law enforcement in society, and we sincerely wish him a happy 263 years behind bars.